Welcome back, baseball fans, to this eliminating the Philadelphia Phillies video for the 70-73 season. The Phillies last year flirted with the playoffs, finished a game under 500. This year, much worse, 10 under 500. Really struggled the whole year. It kind of comes and goes with Steve Carlton. He was 7-6 last year. This year, 4-6 with that 72 card of 27 wins. Just doesn't translate without some support. And speaking of support, top of the list here, Johnny Callison. Great corner outfit with a strong throwing arm. Was on the Phillies in 69. In 70 he was a Cub, but we kept his card going for the Phillies. Great year. 339, 6 homer, 26 RBI, paced all categories. Luzinski kind of flatlined at 286. Not a lot of homers, only 3, and 126 at bats. Tony Taylor did okay, 282. Darren Johnson really struggled. Spade had a nice year with the batting average. Still not only 18 home runs as a team. There's 3 guys with 30 homer potential. Darren Johnson had 34, Cepeda had 30, and of course Luzinski, but just didn't translate to a homer-happy team. Pitching-wise, Carlton just underachieved. Twitchell, 2-6, 380 ERAs. Got to have support. Got to have more. They traded for Pat Dobson from the Orioles in the offseason. That didn't work out at all. He didn't win a game, and he had a 4.61 ERA. Something about the water in Baltimore if you're a pitcher. You can win 20 games there, but once you're out of that place, forget it. Joe Horner did a good job closing. Jerry Johnson, nice job in relief as well. Yeah, it's just, they're waiting for Mike Schmidt, and they may have the first overall pick in the draft. They're 10 under 500. I believe the Kansas City Royals are 9 under 500. So, yeah, I think the Phillies might be picking number 1 in the draft next year, and that would probably be Schmidt. Could very well see Mike Schmidt, George Brett go back-to-back in next year's draft for their 74 cards. Let's take a look now at the Phillies cards as we eliminate them. We want to pull out the 1970 Philly players and leave the remainders. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we'll set these 8 cards aside. Just see, first of all, who's coming back next year and help building back the Phillies and really start putting the beginnings of that great Philly team of the 1970s together. Well, their pitching staff's largely intact. They're going to have to rebuild the offense. I guess Mike Schmidt will be a big part of that. Now we have 5 hitters here. Looks like Darren Johnson will get the full-time first base spot. Or Cepeda was on the team. He might be a trade chip now. Bo is at short. Doyle is at second for the moment. Terry Harmon is also factoring in there. Maybe it's a platoon at second. And Boa. And then Luzinski in the outfield. So, plenty of opportunities, plenty of job openings for the Phillies in the batting. Now, pitching, there's some bright spots here, definitely. Starting with, of course, Carlton. Really, on paper, they brought 7 of their best pitchers back. So Carlton, 27 wins, is there. And I really like this Twitchell card. I don't like that Walkham 5-7 over there and there, which is a shame. But otherwise, I like this Twitchell card. 250 ERA and 223 innings, and 16 home runs allowed. And then you have the Pat Dobson 21 win card in 71. So that's great start for a rotation. And in the bullpen, Johnson, Scarsay, Gladding, and Horner. And those guys, this is a nice looking bullpen here. Righties and lefties. Horner does a nice job there. Buck 97, Gladding, ZRA is 275, gets righties out. Scarsay walks some guys, but otherwise it's good. Short career for him. Jerry Johnson's manageable. So, the Phillies, if you have a good pitching staff and you can't get an offense together, get a defense together, at least. That'll help. But let's see what happens to those 8 players from 1970? Who gets kept, waived, and retired? Okay, baseball fans, we'll take a look at what the Phillies are going to do with their 8 players of 1970. Who's getting kept, waived, and retired? We're going to start with John Callison. I had a great year. Was your team MVP. Here he is with a Philly hat. You'll notice that he actually becomes a Cub in 70 for a couple of years, but we kept him on the Phillies. Then he goes to the Yankees and his career is done in 73. So he's got a couple years left, 71 and 72. 71, not so much. 72, pretty much like the season he just had. Is he a keeper? Well, for the moment he is. But obviously, waivers make more sense. Because he still has some juice left in him, but maybe for a different team. So right now we're making him a keeper. As you want to identify keepers, if you don't have enough keepers, you have to go find them from other teams' castaways. All right, here's another really intriguing baseball player for this timeline. Now I'm talking Orlando Cepeda, because he would travel a lot. 58 to 74, he played a nice long career. Giants, and then there was this traveling he did, beginning in 67. A couple years in St. Louis. Then with the Braves for 4 years. Had some at-bats for Oakland in 72. Did they give him a ring? I'm not sure. Then Boston and Kansas City with DH stints. So a really traveling player at the end of his career. We're talking about 71 to 74 now. Look at this 70 year with Atlanta though. 34 homer, 111 RBI. Is that, how does that rate? 61, you can't top that, of course. But anyway, nice little season at age 32 for the Braves, the card we just used. That was the card that the Phillies got in exchange for Dick Allen. So really, it was a pretty sideways move, both teams. I think Dick Allen hit 308 with his 72 card. Cepeda hits 305 with his 70 card with 34 bombs. Very comparable. You know, these stats will win Dick Allen the MVP in 1972. 308, 37 homers. I think he had many more walks, though. Anyway. A lot to talk about. You know, Boston, full-time to age, 600 at-bats and 289 batting average. Got MVP votes for Boston in 73 as a DH. Do the Red Sox need him? I don't think so. They got so much. This is a trade chip, folks. This guy is a trade chip. We're going to make him a keeper now. But obviously, for a bad Philly team, you got to get on the phone and try and improve your team somehow. Whatever it takes. Improve this squad. You're already going to have Darren Johnson as your first baseman anyway. All right, next player, Wayne Comer. He was, I want to say, a Seattle Pilot maybe for a bit, or a Milwaukee Brewer. Yeah, he's got a Seattle Pilot hat on right there. So he was on that 69 squad, had a pretty nice year, believe it or not. Look at that, 354 on base, 735 OPS. That's pretty darn good for an expansion Seattle Pilot team. 147 games. After that, however, it didn't do very well. Split time in 1970 with a couple squads with the card we just used. Is only returns in 72 for 9 at-bats. So we know that Wayne Comer's career is over. Nice little run we got out of it, though. We got a couple years. We got basically his whole career. It was a couple years, and we got to use it in the carryover league. Thank you, Wayne. He'll retire. I remember him as a guy who could walk and play good rangy defense in the outfield. So, next player is Pat Corrales. Would be a manager one day, right? Yeah, major league manager. So he managed from 78 to 87. But he played baseball here with the Reds. Here's a catcher. Phillies, Cardinals, Reds, and Padres. He came off of some nice 264 years. Could still hit left-handed pitching okay. Had a good throwing arm. 71, 2, and 3, he is around 200. It's a 216 lifetime hitter. It's not like it's something he hasn't done before. Good news, as far as waivers, he qualifies for it, I believe, with 102 at-bats for the Reds. But I gotta verify that. Did Strat-O-Matic make his 1971 card? To find that out, I'm going to go to Super D's site, where he has posted all the roster sheets at Gary's Strat-O-Matic roster page. Let's take a look and see if they made a Corrales card with Cincinnati in 1970. And they did. So, he qualifies for waivers. To qualify for waivers, you got to have a card in 1971 from Strat-O-Matic. If you don't, you can't get waivers. That's the point of the waiver list. Otherwise, he goes to retirement. So, Corrales is on waivers. Next up, Tim McCarver. He should continue his career with the Phillies. I believe he was back and forth with them. Stepped away from this team for a little bit of time, returned. 21-year career. So it goes Cardinals at age 17. My goodness. Cardinals, Phillies. Then there's this little trip to Montreal and back to the Cardinals, to the Red Sox, and then back to the Phillies. So yeah, with Boston in there for a brief moment. So yeah, he's a traveling son, but he might want to stick around and watch this Philly team be born. He's there with them in 71, 2, and then he moves on. And 71, 525 at-bats for the Phillies. I want that card. A 278 hitting left-handed catcher. I mean, come on, you got to have that card. Plus, you got rid of Pat Corrales. So McCarver is the strongest keeper thus far. He's the first guy I would keep. As you can get anybody at the platoon with him. You don't need Pat Corrales. You can get any catcher who bats right-handed can make the Phillies at this point. All right, as a backup. Next up, Ron Stone. We're looking at a lot of hitters. Ron Stone is the next one. Short career ends in 72 with the Phillies. And he's there pretty much the whole time. So 71, they'll make his card with 214 plate appearances. Or 185 plate appearances. I'll just verify it though. They should make it. Yeah, he's there. So he's there in 71 with a 227 batting average. We had him in 70 with a 262 average. All his stats fall. So he's on the fence. Guessing you're going to have another keeper come along. Let's put him on waivers for now. So we get our 2 waivered players we have to have. Because we haven't even looked at the pitching yet. And Tony Taylor's coming up. And I know Tony Taylor will be better than Ron Stone. Tony Taylor has a really nice card coming up soon. Tony Taylor, 58 to 76. Long tenure Philly and Cub player. Boy, the Phillies and Cubs like to trade players to each other. They're showing Chris. Look at all the guys who have played their careers for the Cubs and Phillies. You got a huge list of players that have done that in either order. Let's see here. So you've got a 303 year in 72. In 74 with the Phillies, they made this card with 328 batting average and an 873 OPS. Now that is a crazy card, but this is what the Phillies need. They need crazy cards. They need everything. So yeah, he's sticking around, folks. And even if he has to be the designated hitter to replace Orlando Cepeda, I mean, I would do that. You know, we lost this Orlando Cepeda card. Let's replace it with Tony Taylor and let Mike Schmidt play third base. That's the quick fix to this team right away. And heck, maybe Johnny Callison doesn't come back. Now that we know we want to keep Taylor and McCarver, we might make some other moves. And finally, our only pitcher under consideration is Barry Lersch. Barry Lersch. Nice 1970 card I'm looking at here. 3.25 ERA and 130 some odd innings. His whole career I was a Philly until that little appearance with the Cardinals in 74. So 71, old Barry goes in the rotation with a $1.18 ERA. Now I was talking about $1.18 whip. I mean, yeah, $1.18 whip. So his whip gets a little better, and he pitches on 3 days rest. there you go, folks. You would have 4 Philly pitchers pitching on 3 days rest. Carlton, Twitchell, Dobson, and Lersch. Bring him back. Bring him back. Bring back Barry. The Bring Back Barry campaign has sounded. Barry Lersch, you're coming back to the Phillies. So now, it seems like Johnny Callison, thank you so much for your service, and you were the best player on a bad Philly team this year. We're going to reward you by putting you, well, you know, I think you got to trade, yeah, you just got to trade Orlando Cepeda at this point. All right? Got to trade him. So if you trade him, you can keep Callison, McCarver, Taylor, and Lersch. You're putting Corrales and Stone on waivers. You're going to get a lot in return for Cepeda, we think. So that seems to be a win-win scenario because it creates a roster spot for Mike Schmidt. Boom, done. Pitching staff, done. Boom. Then all you have to do is, you know, get 4 other hitters. You know, you need another. You got to replace a Ron Stone. You got to find a catcher with McCarver. You got to replace another outfielder, Wayne Comer. You got to find a couple outfielders to play along with Johnny Callison and Greg Luzinski. You might have to have Luzinski in the outfield again instead of DH because you want to play Tony Taylor, Harmon, Boa, Doyle, and Schmidt. And Darren Johnson. So you probably will have to play Luzinski in left, maybe Callison in right, and then you find a center fielder. Maybe you finally are able to pry Gary Maddox away from the San Francisco Giant farm system and get him into Philadelphia before, 76 in that monster year. So yeah, call the Giants, see if Gary Maddox is available. Trade Orlando Cepeda. There you go. Trade Orlando Cepeda back to the Giants and have him finish his career where it started for Gary Maddox. That is my solution. Fun stuff to talk about when the draft is about 9 months or 10 months in the future. So yeah, thanks for checking out this Eliminating the Phillies video. It's been a lot of fun. We'll see you next time.